Although what I'm about to share with you can help you stop having these kind of dreams, by the end of today's video, I'm also going to give you one powerful strategy to help you overcome any battle you have with lust. But I need to warn you from the outset, if you have any children around, now's the time to put this video in the watch later category. And maybe if you've got headphones, you might want to put them in right now. Firstly, we need to deal with the misconception, and that is that this is only something which has impact on men. Not true. Many people associate wet dreams with just men, right, or younger boys, but women can also have a wet dream too. The reason I wanted to start like this is because I want you to know, women as well, number one, I've got your back, but number two, men, this isn't just something that we have to deal with by ourselves. Now, another thing, if you keep tracking with this article, it gives us another piece of insight which is really beneficial first and foremost, and that is that this isn't just something which happens to young boys or young girls for that matter. As we track through this article, I want to show you this part right here where it says wet dreams only happen during puberty. This is the fourth myth in this particular article that they're basically dealing with. And as you scroll down, it says, while wet dreams are most common during puberty, they can also happen during adulthood. And as you look at this particular article right here, this is a visual illustration of what's commonly spoken about between this particular age group right here. But then as you scroll down and you read just below, what does it say? At least 70% of unmarried men within the age of, notice this, 21 to 25 years old have experienced these wet dreams as well. But it gets even more detailed because as you see right down, it says, even up until they enter their 30s. So merely by looking at these two pieces of data already, we're already taking down many misconceptions that many people have. And once we know these things, it's easier for us to now work at actually stopping these things from happening if that's what you want. But before we do this, I want to look at one piece of data again, because you're watching this video today to learn and to see how you can actually stop this from happening. But many people in this arena will tell you and get you to believe that there's no way you can actually stop this from happening. Let's just look at this article right here. This is answering the question, can you stop yourself from having a wet dream? And notice what it says. The short answer is apparently that you really cannot stop wet dreams since they happen while you are asleep. I'm not here to say that this is completely untrue. This is where wisdom comes into it, ladies and gentlemen. Don't just take what somebody says, even if it's the majority of people saying it, as gospel. We obviously need to be wise as Christians, and if you're struggling in that department, this passage right here will be very beneficial to you, because what does it say? This is James chapter 1 verse 5, and it says, if any of you are lacking wisdom, who should we ask? Let him ask of God that gives to all, say all, ladies and gentlemen, all liberally. If you're lacking wisdom right now, I definitely recommend you become habitual at seeking out wisdom, because it will help you in many different ways. Let me tell you a story now which happened in my life. And before I tell you this story, I want to share one more thing with you firstly, because it will help you understand where I'm coming from when we get to this particular story I'm about to share with you. So notice, look at what it says here. This is from WebMD, and it says, usually a wet dream happens while you are having a dream about sex. And they say, but not always. I don't know about you, but just to be completely honest and personal here, to help whoever's watching this grow as much as they can, all of the dreams I remember having of this nature all involved sex. I can't remember explicitly, but there was a point in time when I came to the realization, I came to the conclusion that I was basically just having sex in my dreams. And that isn't something I wanted to do, right? That is something I was trying to work against. And I began praying about this particular scenario. And I obviously, as I've highlighted previously in today's video, I'm asking God for wisdom. But help me, why are these dreams happening? What am I doing to put myself in a position where I'm dreaming about sex in the night? It was one afternoon, if I remember this correctly, where it just dawned on me that there was a particular sports website that I regularly visited on most likely a daily basis. And it wasn't like a funny sports site or anything like this. It was a genuine sports site, right? I'm going there for sports data. But what I realized this particular day was, on this particular sports site, there's all of these funny looking ads on the website. And these ads were explicit. Even if you're not looking at something or looking out for something, You may glance at something when the page loads or things along those lines. And I said to myself, could this website and the frequency in which I go to this sports website, going for sports, be the reason why I'm having these particular dreams? What did I say? At that particular point in time, I said, you know what? I'm actually going to stop visiting this website because I think there's ultimately a correlation. You watching this video, you may have to stop watching a particular TV show that you really enjoy because it's filled with a bunch of hot women, or if you're a woman in this case, a bunch of hot men. You may be at work on a daily basis with attractive hot women who dress inappropriately for whatever reason, and you may find yourself looking at the floor or looking down with the time to stop seeing, right, whether deliberately or inadvertently, these women in the way they're dressed. And again, this applies to men dressing indecently as well, just for the record. I remember some of the first years in salvation, I used to say to my best friend all the time, summertime was one of the worst times in the world. Why? Because it's summertime when women decide, in many cases, to come out in minimal clothing. And it's almost like everywhere you look, there's some woman or someone who's basically dressed inappropriately. And I find myself many times walking around, looking at the floor and trying my best not to look up, because what would happen? You may glance at a woman who's attractive, or you may glance at a woman who's not dressed appropriately. And these are all things which can trigger you, not maybe in that particular moment, but when you're sleeping, when your senses have dropped, when you're vulnerable, for those things to basically come upon you. Now, for someone who watches this video, if you're living in Miami or if you're living in California, that is summertime all year round for you. And you will have to combat and battle these things on a day-to-day basis. And this is where a verse, which is a few verses down from what we read earlier in James chapter 1, which is verse 12, where James is going on to say, blessed is the man that does what? That endures temptation. For when he is tried, he will receive the crown of life, which who? The Lord hath promised to them that love him. So the point I want you to realize is, even if you're in a place like Miami or California, where it's summertime all the time, and you may have to be looking at the floor and not looking around or be on super guard, you can endure the temptation and you'll be blessed for it, and you will receive a crown of life from the Lord. Before I tell you what explicitly happened, right, and a key turning point in this whole situation for me, I'm obviously aware that what happened in my life, right, doesn't necessarily guarantee this is going to happen in your life. But what this does is it puts you in a position where, don't just take my word for it. Seek out wisdom like I showed you at the start of this video. Continue to pray about God giving you wisdom to help you overcome these particular situations, whether you're in that 9 to 19 range or whether even if you're an adult, like we talked about and read about earlier on in today's video. I remember when things really began to change for me because I was praying about this not happening to me anymore. I remember there was one night I was asleep and I don't know what happened, but it just seemed simply like I had become conscious of what was going on in my dream. And just like all of the times previously that I can remember and recall, I was in a dream where I'm basically about to have sex. And it was almost like I was conscious of what was actually happening. And I was like, okay, you're in the motion, you're doing these motions, you're having sex, it's getting to that point. And I kind of was just like, wait, hold on, what's going on? What's actually happening, Israel? No, you're not about to do this. And I woke up. I literally snapped myself out of the dream. And from that moment on, I realized through personal experience that whether it was miraculous, whatever it was, I was able, at least on that occasion, to consciously understand what was happening, even though I was in some sort of sleep. That wasn't a fluke, just for the record. That happened multiple times after that. And even in more recent years, just to be completely honest, when I've experienced sexually explicit dreams, I found myself in the same situation, coming to that consciousness in the dream, in the sleep, and actually being able to snap out of it and not actually continue. Now, the fact of the matter is, we're tempted, as we talked about earlier in today's video, and the passage, as you can see here from 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 13 is very powerful, because what does it say? It says, there is no temptation which has taken you, but such as is common to man. So he's saying that all temptations that anybody faces are temptations which people have experienced previously. And then he says, but God is faithful, yes he is, who will not allow you to be tempted above which you are able to bear. But also with a temptation will give you a way of escape, that you can also bear the situation. So I know, at least for me in my life, these particular types of dreams were something I was able to overcome. I started to realize quite clearly that God was giving me a way of escape. And the only difference was, as I became more conscious of this, I began to look for that escape and take that escape much more often. Hopefully my honesty and what I've shared today can be very beneficial to you. But maybe you're someone who's struggling with lust in many different ways. And one great strategy, which I know can definitely help you overcome that battle with lust, is something I talk about in this video right here.